This week on the Changelog, we're taking you to the hallway track of the final Strange Loop conference. First up is AnnMarie Thomas. AnnMarie is an engineering, business, and education professor, and she gave one of the opening keynotes titled Playing with Engineering. We also caught up with many first-time and multi-time attendees who shared their favorite moments from Strange Loop with us over the years. You'll hear from Richard Feldman, that Colin Dean, and Taylor Troesch. Last up, we talked with Pokey Rule. He gave a talk about his project called Cursorless, which is a spoken language for structural code editing. So cool. For our Changelog Plus subscribers, you get an extended version of this episode that includes everything we recorded at Strange Loop. You can become a Changelog Plus subscriber at changelog.com/plus. I also want to give a big thank you to Alex Miller, the organizer behind Strange Loop, for being so kind to us and getting us there for the final Strange Loop. And of course, a massive thank you to our friends at Fastly and Fly. Fastly is super fast globally. Check them out at fastly.com. And Fly helps us put our app and our database close to you all over the world with no ops. Check them out at fly.io. What's up, friends? I'm here with James Cowling, co-founder and CTO at Convex. They're one of our new sponsors, and they're building a full-stack platform for the TypeScript era. So, James, you have some awesome docs for Convex, and inside those docs is a document that sort of describes the entire world, the entire thinking, the framework of Convex. It's called the Zen of Convex. Can you describe that for me?
From my time building large-scale applications, I believe very strongly that there are a certain set of abstractions, primitives, and ways of solving problems that make life easy forever, and they compound in positive ways, and ways to solve problems that make life worse every day. And the things, everyone can recognize these things. What makes life easy is clean abstractions, information hiding, composability. What makes life hard is conditionals, checks everywhere, corner cases. Now, the Zen of Convex is about how to build applications in a way that scales for you. And in Convex specifically, one key component of that is influenced actually quite a lot by languages like Haskell. To think in terms of transactions, everything is a transaction. You don't have to think about functions interacting with each other because they're transactional. Think in terms of deterministic execution, so functions that are deterministic, so they can get replayed, they can get cached, and if any of the inputs to that function changes, we can push those functions in real time, the new results of those functions to you in real time over a WebSocket. So the Zen of Convex is about thinking about the kind of ways of building an application that are going to pay dividends to you in the long run. Now, you can use Convex and completely ignore the Zen if you want, right? You can use Convex just as a workhorse tool. We think the framework's designed in such a way that it encourages you to do things in the right way and in a way that will scale, in a way that will make life simple for you in the long run.
Okay, if you're looking for a better type of backend, Convex is the full stack TypeScript development platform you've been looking for. Replace your database, server functions, and glue code. Get started at convex.dev. That's convex.dev. Again, convex.dev.
All right, so we have AnnMarie Thomas. Is that how you say your name?
Exactly, yeah.
Who gave an amazing keynote this morning.
That's right.
Play with Engineering, is that the title?
Playing with Engineering. That was
with
close.
Engineering. Going off memory here. I would call it a multimedia presentation. Many of our audience have probably been to conferences, have probably given talks. There's a lot that goes into a talk, especially a keynote. It's at a beautiful auditorium, right?
It's the prettiest theater I've ever spoken in.
You know,
Is that right?
Yeah.
thousands of people in the audience, and off to a smashing start, and then a little audio-video snafu.
You did so well, though.
Which was going to become a much bigger snafu later on because you had some audio that needed to be played.
Yep.
And then...
Yeah, someone thought I set it up because we've realized the sound didn't work, and the first one was about a project with deaf kids, so you didn't actually... It was perfectly accessible without sound, but that wasn't true for the later stuff.
But later on, it was going to get required. What were you thinking in that moment, like when the audio wasn't working? First of all, you handled it so well.
Oh, thank you.
I want to pull up the Slack because somebody gave you a very nice compliment, better than I can, about that. But what were you feeling and thinking?
Well, I knew it could work. Yeah, I mean, because we had tested before, and when I went up, and so when the sound wasn't working, I realized how lucky I was that it was perfect for what the topic was at that moment, the Playful Learning Lab's work in the deaf community. But I also, I did know that the later stuff, which was at our work with OK Go and also some music visualization stuff, wouldn't work without it. But I also know that, the audience, it's the first day, so you can't stop. So right. I think what I did, and I'd have to watch it later, was kind of go to the front and make it clear that have someone come help in the tech. And then in the back of my head though, I don't remember what I said because I was making some joke about it, but I was thinking, all right, if they don't fix it, I need to change the talk. So I was mentally prepping that we couldn't have done OK Go. So I would have tried to flub my way through a talk on magic and sleight of hand.
I couldn't even tell that you were in the back of your mind
tricks.
thinking of plan B, really. I mean, we all kind of do that to some degree when things go wrong, but your presence didn't at all reflect the internal, oh my gosh, should I have a plan B? Can I just change my talk, basically, that's a big deal.
Thank you. I mean, it was a talk on play and process and how it's about process and not product.
Right.
And
it really played to your strengths.
Someone did ask if it was
I'm
actually
curious about this
intentional.
Slap message because I remember what she said.
Yeah, so this was Mike English in the Strange Loop Slack said, "This is the most gracefully I've ever seen someone handle such a major AV issue mid-presentation."
Well, that was really sweet.
Elliot Cable quoted that, and then 38 clap emojis, 8 +1s, and then 7 100 emojis.
See, I never end up doing the thing I meant to do. Also, maybe my talk was about how to handle tech issues, but that wasn't what I prepped for. And that, if you let anything from my talk, it's that things always go wrong in our stuff, and it's what you do with it.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you said, though? You said something about when we play, we have to expect something or other. I'm paraphrasing.
I must have said that things never go the way you expect because if it's about process
right.
and outcome,
that's right.
How can you do something new if you already know the outcome?
That's right.
But I will confess that yes, in the back of my mind, I was it's been a while. They're still standing there. We're not going to go to OK Go. I think we're going to do a talk about magicians and magic and attention. And where are my cards?
Where's my magic?
Where are my cards? I have cards in my backpack. So I don't know what I was saying, and I hope it was sensical because I was.
No, it totally made. That hit me because I was so. It's on hiatus right now, but we have a podcast called Brain Science.
Oh, cool.
And obviously you learn much better in the state of play, right? You know this.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right, as a professor, so you know this. But to me, I'm hanging on to your talk because I am a curious person who pays attention to brain sciencey things. So neuroscience, those kind of things. And so to me, it's I'm hearing from somebody who's steeped in literally educating and playing at the same time and engineering, all that fun stuff. And so just exactly what you said was on point because it wasn't going perfectly AV-wise. Talk-wise, great.
Thank you.
It was good.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's all. I mean, I want to learn more about your brain science stuff because it's fascinating. Currently, I'm totally geeking out on magic. My daughter is a sleight of hand artist, and I can do a coup tricks, but I'm on sabbatical, and originally my whole sabbatical was going to focus on magic, and so I have been reading lots of books on magic theory. But it's interesting because a big part of my lab's model of play is surprise, because when you're surprised, you're off kilter.
Right.
And often you do good things when that happens because you have to be fully engaged in the moment, right? So when you're surprised, you're engaged. So if you can surprise your students when teaching, you get them in that moment.
Yes.
And it's something that magicians are really good at. It also, if you go younger, and I work with kids too, a lot of magic in sleight of hand is based on the idea of object permanence. If it was there, it stays there.
Right.
Well, that's also what magic is based a lot on. So I find it, as someone who wants to teach better always, I think there's a lot to learn there. Plus the engineering behind a lot of magic is quite cool.
Have you ever found that your playful aspects of your teaching, so if you're teaching physics stuff, you gave the example.
Go to the circus.
Yeah, of a circus or somebody on a spinning a ring or these things that you're very visual, very interactive and fun and kind of whimsy, to use your word.
Yeah.
You ever find that in that moment or after that moment when it comes time to actually then go apply the principle or let's do the math.
Yeah.
You ever find there's a come down where it's I'm kind of liking the play part but not the learning part?
I mean, hopefully not. I mean, that class was sort of opt-in, and the math and physics was always there because they were doing experiments. I mean, they were the pendulum, they were the bungee.
Right.
I think the point for it is we're trying to use play as a leverage tool for learning. So in that case, you really have to know the theory of like what are your learning outcomes? How do you map it to this? And it's not for everyone. Like that class would have been awful for a lot of people, and it was an elective, right? And that's one of my favorite things to do with companies is ask people like, what was your favorite learning experience? And I've done that at workshops, and everyone does it, and people want to like interrupt. I'm like, no, we're just listening. And a lot of people will say these really big, like, we went to the circus to learn physics, or we did this art thing. But some people will say, I mean, I will never forget, a big, very well-known programmer said, I love going into large lecture halls, and the professor would lecture at the chalkboard, and I'd learn that way. Right? And that's not what you think is going to be the most meaningful learning for many people, but for quite a few people it is. And it's so personal that I think with learning, that's one of the key things, is that there's not one right answer. It's the opposite of like calculus. There is not a right answer. And we can't pretend there's a right way to do it, so it's very messy.
My son to this day knows, he's 7 years old, by the way. I think I taught him this at least 2 years ago, maybe 3, about kinetic energy. And the way I taught him was because we have a swing set in our backyard, and I pulled him up, and we call them smoochies. So I held him like close to my face. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let you go, and you see if you can smooch me on your way back. But so kinetic energy in that stance will, I don't have to describe it. The person wouldn't swing any further forward than they were dropped.
Yeah.
And that's the way it works. And so I taught him about like, I'm holding you, there's energy pent up, and that's kinetic energy. And so he learned that in a state of play. It was a swing set. So just the fact that you can kind of like inject play and inject learning into like a concept like kinetic energy to a 5-year-old, and he still understands it, and we talk about it to this day, that to me is like the ultimate of learning and play.
When we did that class, the circus, the final exam was doing a circus about physics for 6th graders, but then we created a music video later, and the song that the music video plays to, and you can find it online, was done by a band called Mighty Fairly, and they took my course notes, and it's beautiful, like in a nerdy way. One of the lines they show with flying trapeze is, potential energy converts to kinetic me, or star-crossed products meet. Like they're just lovely, they weren't just randomly using the words, like we were doing cross products, we were doing potential to kinetic. And it was beautiful, their ability to turn it into this like catchy song that is like totally geeky correct.
Right. Wow. How did OK Go happen for you? Like how did the whole sandbox?
Yeah.
How did that relationship happen? Do you know somebody? Are you in music? Like how did the relationship spawn? And
I went to a conference.
Form?
I drank too much coffee, and I got in line for a coffee before heading to the airport. The literal last minute of the conference. And the person in front of me was the lead singer for OK Go. And I introduced myself and said they'd given a great talk at the conference, and I love their work, and I use them in classrooms. And they asked what I did, and I said, I teach, I'm an engineering and education professor. And he said, oh, we should do something together. He didn't know me. And then I was like, well, I'm going to be in LA in a few weeks. And he's like, why? I'm giving a talk. Hey, do you want to give a talk with me? This is like truly like in coffee line at a conference. And he's like, sure. So like my second conversation with Damien was us giving a talk to 1,500 people. And then we chatted over a meal and said like, all right, like how can we work together? And we got a grant like the next week. A few months later, they were programming. They were on our campus filming our test content. And we're now, that was April of 2017. So we've done a lot since then.
Wow. And in your talk, you mentioned that OK Go's music videos are very playful. It's not something that they kind of recognize. Is that what I heard?
Oh, they recognize they're playful. They don't recognize they recognize that they are used in education settings like classrooms, but that was never something they worked on.
Okay.
And they have a model for how they do things, and they call it playing in a sandbox. That's why we call it They play in a sandbox of an idea. But their play is hard work. I mean, most of those videos take over 100 takes.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's
so again, in play, who is it going to be playful for? Maybe it's playful for the audience. That doesn't necessarily mean it's fun or playful for you if you're facilitating the play, which we spend a lot of time talking about in our lab. Like, how do you make things fun for teachers? And then how do I make it fun for my team? And then what do I do? I have to come up with a way that I can still do something fun because,
So you told the story of this amazing set of songs and videos that came out of this collaboration during the pandemic with OK Go, yourselves, your students, and like tens of thousands of individuals? 15,000?
Somewhere over 10,000. We say about 15,000.
15,000 people around the world who send in themselves singing or
clapping or hand color. We broke up 5 animated films into individual frames, so we had about 15,000 coloring sheets, or maybe less than, we do the math, thousands and thousands of coloring sheets, which is a non-trivial software challenge, it turns out, to like then turn those into coherent film if you're not getting the video back, or the frames back. So my students had to write instructions on how to use your camera to take a picture, but
Right.
they still weren't all great. So then there was some really good software wizardry among my 19-year-old students to make those into non-nausea inducing, mostly
Right.
registered animations.
I noticed the
Yeah.
edge moved around a little bit. And I thought it was either artistically done or that's just what you had to work with.
Okay, no, I'll be honest. You were seeing 2 videos. So
Okay.
what you saw was an animation where we cut the square with the coloring on each sheet digitally. We cut those out and turned that into a rectangular film. We then had another set of footage that was the animation pegs that we actually used, but just not, and those sheets as they flipped. So one was superimposed on the other. So this was really hard for people when they were watching, and I got some people that are like, I know what my number was and that's not there. And I'm like, actually, flip forward 4 frames and the number's not gonna match, but your frame is there. So that one had 2. The one you saw
Right.
had 2 different.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, we had to do that because for that one, because of COVID, a lot of people couldn't mail back their stuff, and so some of them were digital and some were filmed, and so to make it so they were seamless, we had to do both and then combine.
How does this project live now? I know it's digital. It's an artifact. What
It's
are
an
all the?
artifact. You can find the 5 songs you can find on Spotify, and then the 6 music videos and a documentary about how the whole project happened. You can find on OK Go Sandbox.
Right. What about all the drawings and things like that? Should it be like a MIDI museum or something like that? I don't know. I'm thinking
Yeah, I mean, I have cases of drawings. We've been talking about what to do with them. We'll see.
Well, I think about that stuff.
Yeah, well, we
I
return.
have a hard time letting that stuff go from projects.
No,
It's
so we
well,
save it all. And the band saves a lot of their stuff.
Yeah.
So we have artifacts. And then one of them were done on postcards that were put in a giant praxinoscope for Yuri's night. And then those postcards were launched on one of Blue Origin's New Shepard launches. Those postcards then went back to the schools that did them, and they had their own displays.
Right.
So the kids who did postcards with their classes, they got theirs sent to space. And then Blue Origin offered to fly anyone who wanted to send theirs, they could be flown. But we arranged to fly the postcards.
So their postcards went to space and back.
And then back to them.
And back
their
to
school.
them.
Yeah. And we're using a video. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Not bad.
I'd be just totally geeked out if I was a kid in school and that happened to my postcard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
This thing went to space and came
Yeah.
back to me.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
I mean,
We had done a project too where we had kids design an art experiment because OK Go does a video that looks like they're in zero gravity, but they're not. They're in microgravity on a vomit comet, so a plane flying parabolas.
Right.
We did art in space, which was OK Go didn't actually send their stuff to space, but what would you send for an art project? And we had kids around the world design art projects they'd send to space, and then 2 were picked, and then my research students built them. One involved a lot of glitter that was hard to get safe enough to fly, and then one of them was basically a little guitar kind of thing. And those actually flew on a December 2019 Blue Origin flight. So Blue Origin was a fun collaborator for a lot of that stuff,
That's
out
cool.
of this world projects.
huh.
Yeah. Any more projects like this in the work with OK Go Sandbox or OK Go directly?
I mean, OK Go, yeah, they'll have some stuff coming. They just released a great new song. Damien and his wife had a movie that they directed, so the Beanie Bubble, and they did a song for that. There's a visualizer. So OK Go Sandbox should put something out about that. So yeah, a little thing will come soon. In terms of big new things, there's definitely discussions. The band, they had new music coming out. So we'll see where that goes. I'm on sabbatical this year, so I'm working on some children's museum exhibits. And then doing a lot of work in the deaf community has been a big focus, and working with a company in Denmark that does a lot of playful things. So
This OK Go Sandbox, is it a 501c3? Can people give to it if they care about what you're doing?
Yeah,
how
no,
can they
it's a
support
project.
it?
So it's my university is a nonprofit, right? So it's a project of the University of St. Thomas Playful Learning Lab in collaboration with OK Go. So yeah, funds that come to us, and so we could do it thanks to amazing corporate sponsors and individuals. And we never knew where that project was going. We thought it would be a little thing, and it has spiraled way beyond our imagination. But I'm slowly learning that's kind of how a lot of things work with the band. I can say, hands down, their lead singer and that whole team of 4 guys, they're the most creative people I've ever worked with. And kind of for Strange Loop, I'd say their guitarist, Andy, is a computer scientist. So they think that way.
Yeah.
What did you think when you got invited to do a software conference keynote?
I was so nervous. I've been so nervous because I've heard of this conference before. And if you read the rules, it's all like your talk should not be about process. It should be... And I was panicking about it, like nonstop panicking about it. I was talking to some programmer friends. I'm like, I think they asked the wrong person. But yeah, I've heard about Strange Loop for years and how cool it is. So it's delightful to be here. And I'm sad I come just as attending. But better last than never.
Yeah. How did you like how Alex introduced you? His process to find keynoters and how he found someone like you?
I was lovely. I was so delighted when I got Alex's email. So that was Yep.
So sabbatical. You said a little bit of what you're working on now, but what's next or what's coming?
You know, a couple things. We're finishing up some papers. We just finished a huge computer science project. We're still in the middle of it with the deaf community. So we've been working for over 10 years at Metro Deaf School, which is a PK through 12 charter, actually a birth through 21 charter school in Twin Cities, where all the kids are deaf and about 13% are deaf-blind. And so we've been working with them on engineering projects, and during the pandemic, like an online camp with boxes and delivered. And we have been working on their after school. We did an engineering class for all their middle schoolers, a 20-day engineering class that actually my students are presenting at Princeton next week, I think. But we also, this summer, thanks to Google, we had a grant to look at computer science the past year. And so we've been working on videos that are interpreted in American Sign Language by an amazing deaf woman, so deaf interpreted as well, on programming with the Scratch language, so that this fantastic curriculum out of Harvard, out of Karen Brennan's lab, can be a little more accessible in the deaf community. So we've been working hard on that and getting some papers out on that. I'm trying to learn some new things. So I've been dive into magic. I've been doing a lot of work on that. I am working on some children's museum exhibits, which is always a blast.
Yeah.
And I'm doing some work with Lego as a consultant. So I fly to Denmark once a month and hang out with the team over in Billund.
Cool.
They're one of, yep. And then my personal goal was trapeze. So just this weekend, I got asked to join my first flying trapeze team. So I'm training for a show.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Middle-aged mom in the
I
trapeze.
was like, magician wasn't enough. You're
I'm
like,
not-
you know
no,
what? More of a trapeze artist / magician.
It's all
Right.
physics.
Did you say
It's all
sabbatical
physics.
from or just sabbatical in general?
Sabbatical from.
Okay, because your version of sabbatical sounds like a lot of work.
Oh, I
to
mean,
me.
well, a sabbatical for an academic,
Okay.
right, is you're paid half your salary for the year, basically, and you're doing things that further you as a professor, but you don't have to go to all the faculty meetings or teach. And I usually teach
I
between
see.
6 and 9 courses a year. And I'm actually a business professor and an engineering professor, so there's a lot of faculty meetings when you're a dual appointee. So I get to skip most of those.
I see.
Yeah, I still have my advisees, but
Some people mean sabbatical differently, like they're searching for their next thing. I think that's why you probably asked that, Jared. Like, what's next for you? I didn't know that's how
oh
it
yeah,
works.
no, academics
for-
like every 8 years we can.
Is
we
that a
can
whole
fly.
year?
Mine is. I've never done a whole year, so I'm doing a whole year.
Well, you seem very excited about what you do and passionate about the people you work with, so taking the actual time off seems to be a challenge.
Oh, and I'm not good at that.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
We need more folks like you in education that you seem to eke out every connection and possibility based on what I know from you.
Yeah, no, we aspire to do that.
Well, we appreciate you talking to us today.
Thank you guys for
It's been
asking me
awesome.
to. It was fun.
It's all physics.
It's all physics.
It's all physics.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you guys. Yeah, no.
What's up, friends? There's so much going on in the data and machine learning space. It's just hard to keep up. Did you know that graph technology lets you connect the dots across your data and ground your LLM in actual knowledge? To learn about this new approach, don't miss Nodes on October 26th. At this free online conference, developers and data scientists from around the world will share how they use graph technology for everything from building intelligent apps and APIs to enhancing machine learning and improving data visualizations. There are 90 inspiring talks over 24 hours, so no matter where you're at in the world, you can attend live sessions. To register for this free conference, visit neo4j.com/nodes. That's NEO, the number 4j.com/nodes.
Yeah, so I'm Richard Feldman. This is my 10th Strange Loop. I was in St. Louis when they started, so I've been to the first several. My best memory is actually from just before the pandemic. We used to have every year we'd have ElmConf right before Strange Loop in like the same venue, and that was awesome because I was like really into the Elm community, and we'd just go and have an all-day Elm Fest, and then followed by that immediately Strange Loop. So it was just great having like both of those back to back, and then we'd have a lot of overlap where like people came out to Strange Loop and they'd be trying out Elm for the first time. They just kind of wandered over to ElmConf, or it was just awesome. It was a great time, and I'm gonna miss it.
Has it changed a lot over the years?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, what hasn't changed is kind of the theme of the conference, which I've always kind of thought of as stuff Alex Miller likes, but it's kind of like cross-pollination. It's like a little bit of art, a little bit of miscellaneous biology stuff, a little bit of practical stuff, functional programming. It's kind of like a good mix and like interesting speakers, whereas a lot of conferences are like very enterprise focused or very, language focused, something like that. It's always been kind of a nice mix. I think the main thing that's changed is that it's gotten like bigger and better and more ambitious over the years. Like the first year, it was in a theater, and there were two tracks, each one in front of a movie screen, and that was it. And I remember one of the talks was on this new thing called GitHub, and
Really?
I was like, "What is this?" Yeah, we were using Subversion at work at the time,
Sure.
not even Git yet. So I was like, all right, this is an interesting pitch. Looks kind of like a neat tool.
Was that 2009 then, or 2000?
I think that was 2009.
Right? If it was 2010, that'd have been
Yeah.
behind.
I think so. Alex was telling me that he was pulling up some pictures from then, and he saw me in one of the 2009 photos.
Wow.
So I guess I'll be in a slideshow later.
That's cool.
But yeah, I've spoken here 3 times. I've did all the Elm conferences. I spoke at all those. So had a lot of memories as a speaker as well as a participant.
Awesome.
What will you miss most?
Oh, definitely like just all the people coming together in one place. Like since I got here, I've just been going from one interruption to another. Like I'll run into someone I know, start having a conversation, and I see somebody else, like, hey, let's go. And it's just nonstop, back to back, since I set foot in the building. Actually, before that, since the hotel, when I like left my hotel room, and then we walked over together, and it's just nonstop. It's really hard to find such a great like collection of awesome people.
So you've also changed over the years.
True.
We've had you on the show years ago. You were
Yeah,
like
for
the
Elm
Elm
stuff.
guy. You were like Elm's official representative.
I give a lot of Elm talks.
A
That's
lot
for sure.
of Elm, and now
Yeah.
you're not doing Elm.
So I'm working on an Elm-inspired programming language. It's kind of like gives you like an Elm-like experience, but in other use cases. So Elm's really like browser-based UIs, and Rock, ROC, is the language I've been working on, and it's very focused on like other use cases. So like command line apps, servers, I like to think of it as like the long tail of use cases. Theoretically, you could even use it to write like a Vim plugin or something like that. Nobody's done that yet, but
Yeah.
really pretty much anything you want.
Tell me about servers and TUIs. Like, give me how's that work?
Very simple. I mean, if you want to build a server in Rock, we have this, without going into a lot of detail on it.
So you can build a TUI and a server in the same language?
If you wanted to, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
So we have this concept called platforms and applications, and the basic idea is whatever you're about to build, you're saying, I'm going to build an application in Rock. You always have to pick a platform to build on, exactly one. And a platform feels like, to you as a user, kind of like a framework, but actually under the hood, it's doing a lot more than a framework would. It's doing stuff like providing all the I/O primitives and also like memory management. So that's how you can have something like, for example, like a database extension. In a lot of languages, if you're doing a database extension, it's like, okay, so in this database extension, I've got like HTTP and like multi-threading and like file I/O. Am I allowed to do all that stuff in a database extension? Maybe not. So the idea is that in a Rock platform, the platform says, I'm going to give you both a framework and also like, here's just the primitives that make sense in this use case. So if you're doing like a TUI, sure, then somebody can make a platform for just that that's got like APIs that make sense for that. And a server, same thing, just APIs that make sense for that.
So is Rock a platform to make money?
Oh, no.
It's just for fun?
It's yeah, I mean, I'm doing it at work now, but so I guess I'm getting paid to do Rock stuff.
Okay.
But the goal is not to make money. The goal is to make a language that I like want it to exist in the world.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
And it exists,
It does, yeah. You can try it out right now.
but it's not finished, is it?
Rock-lang.org. Definitely not finished, yeah. No, it's very like early days.
ROC-lang.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, ROC-lang.
Like Rockefeller.
.org.
Records.
Yeah, it's a mythical
The
bird.
ROC.
Is that what it is? Like Run DMC at Rock? No, who was that? Beastie Boys.
Jay-Z, but no
Jay-Z, I
relation.
think,
No
yeah.
relation.
Sorry about that.
No relation.
Rockefeller Records has no affiliation that I'm aware of with Rock, the programming language.
But he's
Not
open
yet,
to
but future
a
sponsorship.
an affiliation.
I don't. I haven't talked to him. I
The
haven't
easy
seen
way
him
to
in
get that
ever.
done would be to
so-
work with Block, because he co-owns some parts of Block.
Oh, you could put Rock
Yeah.
on the blockchain.
That's
There
right.
you go. Okay.
I have a question. Why WebAssembly is not just their website?
Why WebAssembly?
Yeah, I see that you focus there on the website with the assembly WebAssembly. Sorry to add.
That's all right.
We're podcasting.
So here we got
come
Nikolai.
on the microphone. Come
Yeah,
to
it's
my
recorded,
microphone.
but here, come on over and say it into the microphone so we can hear
Nikolai. He's got a question for our friend here, Richard Feldman.
Go for it.
Hi, I'm Nikolai Vasquez. Why the focus on WebAssembly? What do you want to enable by having Rockwell work with WebAssembly?
So I would say there isn't
you
a
later,
focus
Adam.
on WebAssembly. So Rock compiles to either machine code or to WebAssembly. Actually, almost all the use cases today are not WebAssembly. The one that's on the website is we have a web REPL, so you can try out the language right in the browser, and actually the entire REPL is running in the browser, so you can like turn off your network connection and just it still works. And that's basically like we have a little stripped down version of the Rock compiler compiled to WebAssembly running in the browser, and then we also have like obviously like compiles it to your Rock code to WebAssembly, then runs it in the browser. So that's like the main use case for it, but there's plenty of stuff people can use WebAssembly for, so if people want to, they can do that.
Do we have a follow-up?
Oh, no, I'm very involved in the Rust community.
Okay.
It works very well with WebAssembly, so I also have a vested interest in it.
Oh yeah. Well,
I
Rock's
see.
compiler is written in Rust, so I'm very familiar with
A lot of
Rust,
WASM
capabilities.
love
Yeah.
going on around here.
That's right.
Awesome.
Should have had a fourth mic.
Good point. Well, Richard, thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
There you
That's
go.
it.
That's
Cool.
it.
All right,
That's
nice.
all.
Appreciate you, man.
Listen to you guys all the time.
Yeah.
Love it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Great conversation.
Glad to get you on the mic then, man. That was good stuff.
So I'm Colin Dean. I run Code and Supply up in Pittsburgh, community of software professionals. We've run our own conferences for a long time too, and I've wanted to come to Strange Loop for a long time, about 10 years or so since the first time I heard about it. Strange Loop has influenced our conferences through people's feedback, as well as people who are in the Code and Supply sphere going to Strange Loop and telling us all the good things that they've experienced here. And so I had to come and see it myself. And finally, this year, after 10 years, I'm able to come. My girlfriend, longtime partner, about 15 years, has usually had a dog show on this weekend. She's a semi-professional handler and breeder. And it just so happens that on this particular year, 2 shows swapped weekends. And for the first time, I haven't had to stay home and take care of our many, many dogs
How many
while
dogs
they
you
go
got?
off to the show. We have 8.
8 dogs?
8 dogs, and that's just what is at our house.
Question
but then
for
the
you.
pandemic happened, and
As strange as this conference can be, because it's called Strange Loop, could you have brought the dogs?
I probably could have gotten a beagle here. We breed beagles and Vizslas. I probably could have gotten a beagle here, especially one of our smaller beagles. The Vizslas don't travel super well, especially on planes. Well, they travel just fine in cars, but they don't. They're too big for planes.
Right.
I'd have to put them in a crate, and that never goes well.
Yeah.
For shipping
Could you
dogs.
get a bunch of seats for your dogs on the plane? Or do dogs have to be in the stowing area or whatever it's called?
For the most part, they have to be. If they're in a crate, they have to be in cargo.
Right.
Could you have gotten a private
Smaller dogs
jet
you can
with just
take
you
with
and
you.
the dogs?
Oh, then we just load them up.
Load them up, right?
Get some cuddles in the
Bring
cabin.
your girlfriend with you.
But either way, it's been a journey getting here, right? Like you've
Yeah.
tried a couple times,
Yeah.
and to no avail, schedules didn't align, and finally, shows swapped schedules, and here you are. How's
And
it feel to make
here I
it to
am.
the final, the first and final?
It's
For
great
you.
so far. I've had some great interactions with random people and met some people. Seen people that have come to my conferences and that I've met at other conferences over the years. I look a lot different. I've put on a little bit of weight since the last time I threw it on a conference, and I don't have my signature top hat, which is like really throwing people off.
Oh.
There's a signature top
I
hat.
don't even know
signature
about
top
the
hat.
signature top
Yeah.
hat.
Must see
You
a
go
photo.
in the changelog or in the changelog Slack, you'll see the picture
Okay.
of me in it.
Okay.
And that I use that picture everywhere.
Well,
People
that makes
always
more
like, "Oh,
sense
you're
now,
the top
because if
hat
you would have
guy."
said you were that Colin Dean, I would know. You didn't see that Colin Dean in Slack with the top hat?
I mean, I don't
Yeah,
look
I've
at
seen
it.
that. I've seen that Colin Dean. So you're that Colin Dean?
I'm that Colin Dean.
Oh my
Okay.
gosh.
I'm that jag with the hat.
Do you see how this works in the world, man?
The real world is so weird.
It's so weird.
I don't know. It's weird to like interact with people online and then you meet them in person.
Yeah, it
like
is.
The team that I worked on for work, I got moved on to in like early 2021. We had literally none of us had ever met each other in person because we'd all started at Target like during the pandemic, or we had been working on completely different teams prior to the pandemic.
Right.
And then suddenly, I don't know, when it was, October of last year, we all got together at the first place and they're like, Colin, you're a lot taller than we thought.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah. I had my hat on. They're like, oh, but the hat's real. That's how I knew you.
Right.
Hat.
And that adds some inches too, I'm sure, at least to the assumption of the height. So why no top hat? Like, what made you leave it at home?
Good question.
I forgot it.
You forgot it?
Yeah, I thought I had loaded it in the car the night before, and it wasn't until I was already onto the parkway, and I probably could have had time to double back and get it, but it would have been really close. By the time I got to my gate, I only had about 5 minutes, 10 minutes
No
wait
way.
before the boarding.
You're that kind of person?
Yeah.
Is that normal for you?
Pretty much. There
Ooh.
are times if it's like a later afternoon flight, yeah, I'll show up 3 hours early and I'll just sit there and compute a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it's like a morning flight like mine, not an early morning flight.
Oh, yeah.
But if
What
it's
time
a
was
morning
your
flight, it's like 10 o'clock.
Okay. I'd have probably been early for that one. What I also find cool about this story, going back to like get the Strange Loop finally, is that this is, in terms of us, we have a similar story. We've wanted to be here many years as well. And it wasn't so much scheduled, it was just things,
Yeah.
Somehow we weren't able to make it. And so not only is it your first, it's our first, but then you're also in Changelog Slack, and you're also an avid listener of the podcast. And this is the first time you're meeting us too. So
I know, right?
first time the Strange Loop, first time meeting us. It's just, it's wild how that works.
Hey, yeah, and I've seen you guys. I have seen pictures of you guys, but it's always just been like your
Avatars.
your
yeah.
avatars, and interact a little bit. And,
Right.
but yeah, it's always cool to meet people who are doing awesome content generation. Like, you guys are a little bit of an inspiration for like me continuing to do the stuff that I do. Like, I don't do podcasts. But Code and Supply records our meetups and publishes them online for people to see. And you guys serve as an awesome model of how to do a podcast right.
Well, thank you.
We appreciate that very much so.
Yeah.
And several of them. I think I listened to all of them. I can't remember the name of the one that had that Nadia did.
Request for commits.
Request for
Yeah,
commits.
request for commits. That was like
It's a big request for that to come back.
yeah,
I'm just kidding.
because
there's no requests.
like I'm on the board of Homebrew, and one of the things that I always have to think about is like, okay, how are we going to fund the things that we're doing? And I think having requests for commits be like, it's not actively in the front of my brain, but it's a basis for thought.
Yeah.
And the knowledge that Nadia and guests were able to share kind of formed a basis for how I approach trying to find ways to get people who are doing open source money.
Yeah.
I used to be on the GratiPay staff and trying to get people to just give money in that
Really?
way. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
And
More lines crossed over there. Chad Whitaker.
Yep. Another Pittsburgher.
Yeah, that's true. Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area.
Yeah.
So request for commits is still available to listen to for those listening. Changelog.com/RFC. Is it still, did we ever get RFC.FM?
I think we gave it up,
I think we did. Oh,
but
it might still be there. I don't think it is though. That was a cool name. RFC.FM.
20 episodes, good. Still
Seinfeld
probably.
right there. They Seinfeld that one.
They
That was
did.
at
Leave
the
it
top.
wanting more.
They really
Yeah.
did.
Well, Colin, thanks for listening all
Yeah.
these years. Thanks for.
Sure.
He's that Colin Dean.
He's that Colin Dean.
That Colin Dean.
Top
Colin
hat,
Dean.
Colin Dean.
Indeed.
Nice to meet you, man. Nice to see you face
Yeah,
to face.
absolutely.
Yeah, and hopefully when next I get to finally throwing another conference in Pittsburgh, we'll get you guys up there.
We'll come, man. We'll be there.
I've never been.
Doing this.
Yeah.
Take me to the mansion. Take me to the river.
Nemacolin.
Take me to the river house.
Yeah.
Youghiogheny River?
PyCon's next year and the following year, and then we'll see what happens after that.
All right.
Might do Uptime or Artifacts in 2024.
Yes.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
That's it.
That was cool. Thanks for the chat.
Hello, I am Taylor Troesch from good old Taylortown. I would like to tell the story of my first Strange Loop many, many years ago. This is my sixth or seventh, so this had to be like, I don't know, 2012, something like that.
Okay.
So I got this Airbnb out by the river, and it took me like an hour or two to find it in the middle of the night because it was just this old abandoned building, and I was very scared, and nobody was texting me back. I had nowhere to go. I'm totally alone. And so finally, these guys say, "Hey, are you in the Airbnb?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh yeah, come on in. We're in here. You're in with us." So I was like, "Oh, do you guys own the Airbnb?" I'm walking in. There's a guy passed out on the couch with some illicit substances on his chest, and they say, "Oh, that's the host. That's the Airbnb. That's the guy that owns the Airbnb."
Okay.
They look at me, and they're like, "You want a drink? Here's a shot. Pour me a shot." I was like, "What do you guys do?" He's like, "I'm a regional manager for McDonald's." And the other guy's like, "I own a car salesman place," or something like that. And so we're just chatting, and then a commotion starts. This is like 2 a.m, and like 9 girls walk in, and they're pulling each other's hair, and they're hitting each other in the face. Okay, this is 100% all true. I promise. This happened.
Okay.
So they were on vacation in St. Louis on a bachelorette party, and literally half an hour before, they all just found out that one of the people in the bride's party slept with the groom.
Yikes.
So this was the situation. We have the Airbnb host passed out on the couch. We have these 2 guys that are like, I'm talking to, and they're kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I'll get to that in a bit. And then we have this bridesmaid party where they're literally punching each other in the face. That is when I make my move out to go upstairs. This place is still a rundown building. There's literally on the 2nd floor, you can see down into the 1st. There's a giant chasm in the floor that you have to walk around because you can fall down into the 1st floor. This place is like 3 stories. It's like this old brick building. Wake up the next morning because there was a motorcycle show outside. And so at 5 a.m., there was motorcycles lining up. Okay.
And they're loud.
Okay. So I want to come back to the next night. These guys. I come back from Strange Loop, and all the girls have made up at this point. The wedding's back on.
Oh, wow.
These 2 guys that I was talking to, they went out into town and brought some girls back from the bar. And so I get back, and we're all chatting, and the girls are like, "Oh yeah, these guys say that they like work in like investment banking." And I was like, "Oh, that's not what they told me." Like,
You outed them.
well, I was thinking
That's
this.
an internal thought. That's an internal thought.
Oh, you're thinking that.
Yeah,
you didn't say that.
I'm thinking this.
Okay.
He's
It's a big difference.
So then one of the girls pulls me aside and says, "I'm uncomfortable. Can you like escort me out?" And
The
so,
girls they brought back, you mean?
Yeah, the girls they brought
okay.
back.
Okay.
So I essentially had to like, so I left with them, helped them get an Uber and stuff, and like kind of like
Got in with them?
It was just such a weird situation because you can't say no at something
Take
like
your
that.
stuff with you, or did you have to go back and get your stuff?
No, that's the problem.
You had to go
Because
back and
this is
then-
urgent, and it's in the middle of the night, and so my stuff is at this Airbnb with these guys. I don't know what they're doing, right?
Right.
So, and all they know is that like I'm in this weird position where they said like, "Hey, we're good," but they didn't want them to leave.
Right.
And
You took their girl and left.
So I escorted them out, and I had to leave my stuff at the Airbnb. Luckily, they didn't touch my stuff. I didn't see them again until the next day, in which I was like, "Yo, what's the deal?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we just lie a lot," and that was it.
That was it.
That was such an unsatisfactory ending, but I
could've
think
been so
they were
bad.
so drunk the night before they didn't remember anything.
We
but,
just lie a lot.
yeah.
So the moral of the story is, if you ever stay in St. Louis, the Grand Union Station Hotel is an amazing hotel to stay at.
Hopefully the conference was good.
Oh, the conference is amazing. That's the story.
That's an ending point right there. Let's just end it right there.
If you have to.
I do have one more from last year.
See, he's got more.
All right.
He's got more.
A strange loop memory from last year. I've been coming for a long time, but last year was a highlight, for sure. I am somebody who likes to give gifts out. I carry a little bag of trinkets, and gave one to somebody, and he said, "Oh, hey, thank you. My daughter's gonna love this little hair clip. I'm gonna send a magician after you later." I'm like, "Well, okay."
Okay.
I don't know what that means, but I've got a magician on my tail. So I'm in the middle of a conversation with somebody the next day, and somebody taps me on the shoulder and said, "Are you Taylor?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I've got some card tricks to show you." And so he started showing me card tricks. It was pretty good, right? And he's like, "Yeah, I'm the magician that so and so sent after you." Again, he's like showing me tricks, and somebody comes to him and pulls out a deck of cards and says, Is that the such and such shuffle? Let me show you. And so they start having a magic battle.
What?
Like doing card tricks. And I think at this point they'd both exhausted their, like very comfortable tricks, and they keep on messing up. And it's getting sloppier and sloppier because they're going further into their repertoire in this magic off. And so I kind of am like, how do I get out of this? Because I was stuck with the I was stuck in the crossfire.
Right.
And so I said, "So how long have you been into magic?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm a microbiologist." He's like, "Oh, magic is a new thing." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Like this makes a lot more sense."
Oh man.
And that's another good strange.
Did you feel
memory.
compelled to keep watching, despite them messing up? And
So the thing is, I'm a very bad magician myself. So I tried to enter the fray. I was not even worthy of being looked at in their eyes. I do coin magic, so it's way inferior to card magic.
I see.
I like this idea that there's an upper and lower echelon of magicians.
Oh yeah, you should.
There is for sure.
Yeah, card magic I think is near the top. The people with the rings, those are the ringleaders.
It's kind of like the comedians that do ventriloquism
They're the bottom, yeah.
or any sort of props. They're just
Prop people are at the bottom.
so coin magic is bottom. Is that what you're saying?
Coin magic, I would say, is near the bottom. I would say.
Who are you better than?
Let's see. Who's lower than me? Oh, clowns, dude.
Clowns.
Yeah.
They're kind of the bottom of comedy too.
They're the top of comedy.
No way, clowns.
They're the top of comedy,
if you're
but
laying
the
on the
bottom of
ground.
magic.
Okay.
I'm not sure I like your spectrum. What's up, friends? This episode is brought to you by Passbolt. Finally, a password manager built for organizations and teams that take their security seriously. Passbolt is trusted by 15,000 teams worldwide, including Fortune 500 companies, the defense industry, universities, startups, and many others. And I'm here with CEO and founder of Passbolt, Kevin Muller. So, Kevin, the password manager space seems kind of crowded. What made you build Passbolt?
It's a very crowded landscape. The problem is they all are doing the same thing. They all have the exact same security model with very minor differentiators. They are all cloud-based solution, except for Bitwarden. One of the reasons why we actually decided to do Passbolt is because we felt the pain in my previous company, which was a web agency. And the reason why we felt the pain is because we were a technical team. So as a technical team, every time we are starting a project, we are given dozens or hundreds of passwords from our customers. And we are like, okay, we need to centralize this, but most importantly, we need to collaborate with this data. We need to share them very quickly with a lot of granularity and permission control. And then we started looking at what other players were doing, and we are like, yeah, it's cool, but it's really consumer type of use cases. It's more like, how can I authenticate on my Facebook account if I don't remember the password? And even though they developed enterprise offer on top of it, the collaboration is still very clunky. Most of them are not able to do audit logs properly, to provide traceability. So I think this was the trigger for us to start developing Passbolt. We were like, we want something that's more aligned with us as a tech team.
Yeah. So what did you focus on? How did you begin with this project?
So the first thing we did when we built Passbolt, the core component that we wanted to keep coming from the world of KeePass was to be open source. And on top of it, we decided to focus on 3 key areas that seem to us very important for technical teams, which are security, privacy, and collaboration. Security is really important because tech teams are savvy. They understand exactly how security works. They are the guys who will come to a website and download the security white paper just to understand if it's marketing or if there is real tangible value behind the software. So on that front, and because also PassBolt is only B2B, you will really push the security model ahead of what everyone else is doing. So for example, PassBolt provides a secret key that is associated to the user, and it's impossible to connect to PassBolt if you do not have the secret key. So basically, just knowing the username and the password of an account is not enough to connect into it. You also need the secret key. This is the same security model as what you would have with a crypto ledger or some other, highly private security component. It makes a huge difference in the sense like PassBolt is not sensitive to brute force attacks, for example. LastPass is sensitive to brute force attacks. So you can guess the username and the password of a user and brute force into his account. With PassBolt, it's not possible. You need to know the secret key. That's the first component. The second component is the collaboration. You can share passwords with a lot of granularity and traceability. We do not do shared vault with plenty of passwords in one encrypted vault. No. Password is encrypted each time for each user with his public key, which then he can decrypt with his private key. So this gives a lot of granularity and a lot of control with the permission and the access rights. The third part is the privacy. So as I mentioned, PassBolt is open source. You can download it, install it on-prem. We provide Linux native packages for most distros. It literally takes 1 minute. apt-get install PassBolt. You can start it for free. We have a community edition and you get rolling.
Okay, the next step is to go to passbolt.com or install on Linux with apt. Too easy. Again, that's passbolt.com, passbolt.com. Security first, open source. Check it out.
All right, well, we're here with Pokey Rule, the guy whose name I will never forget. Just a unique name.
Some of it self-given, some of it inherited.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. What's the name?
Well, not self-given. It was given to me by my parents, but I was quite young when I got it. But not unborn.
It's not on your birth certificate.
Not on my birth certificate.
Pokey, you're talking about.
Yep. Pokey.
Why did they call you that?
When I was a baby, I was really fat, so my parents called me Porky.
Oh, okay.
And then they went to send me to school, and obviously their friends told them they couldn't call a little fat kid Porky, so they did the only natural thing that two strange hippie parents would do and drop the R.
Okay.
And here I am today.
I was going to say, I thought maybe you slimmed down and they had to take the pork out.
No, yeah.
Did I bring up a wound at all? Or?
No, it's fine. It was years ago. I've recovered.
I mean, he literally,
it's not
he goes by this name, so you probably talked to a lot of people about it.
You do wear it with somewhat honor, I guess. Is it honor you wear it with?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, I could have dropped it.
Yeah, he had the choice. It's his name.
Yeah, it's a choice, yeah.
But I saw your talk title on the schedule. I was like, cursorless, that's interesting. Spoken language editing stuff, you're gonna have to tell us about it. But I was like, okay, spoken language, that's cool for a podcast. And then I was like, right. Pokey Rule. Who is this person?
Sold.
Yeah, like I gotta find Pokey Rule. So we found you, thankfully. We met you yesterday.
Sure did.
We wouldn't let you talk to us.
We're like, no.
That's right.
Because we want to talk to you on these microphones.
Don't waste tape.
We're happy to have you here. You just finished your talk.
I did.
The pressure is off.
The pressure's off.
Tell us about cursorless, because I didn't get much further than your talk title.
Yeah, no worries. So cursorless is a spoken programming language for editing code and text.
Okay. Why editing and not writing?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because 90% of what you do when you are coding is editing.
Okay.
You copy and paste it off of Stack Overflow and then you edit it. Or like Copilot writes it and then you edit it, right?
Yeah.
Like actual straight line coding is maybe 5-10%. You find it somewhere else in your code base, you copy it, you change it, right?
Sure.
So like editing code is coding. And when I first arrived on the scene with voice coding, it was great for writing code in a straight line. So for that 5% of the time, I was cruising, right? But for the 90% of the time when I was editing code, it was really painful.
I see. So why did you start voice coding in the first place?
So I had a repetitive strain injury. So basically I spent too much time hunched over a computer. And it was painful to use a keyboard. And so I tried all kinds of stuff. I hired a guy off TaskRabbit and I dictated Vim shortcuts. And that was pretty brutal. And then eventually I found this amazing software called Talon Voice, which allows you to build custom grammars for whatever you want. There was a community grammar. Found some limitations, and I built cursorless on top of it.
So that's cool. So we talked to Josh, was it Josh Como a couple years back?
yeah.
Who also did that. He had RSI.
Yeah.
And his was more like, here's how I do it.
Right.
I don't think he built anything on top, like you did with cursorless.
No.
Right?
No. Yeah.
But similar situation, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and his blog post is a great resource for people starting. It's like one of the top things that pops up when you search voice coding.
But you take it a full step further. You're like, I'm going to create a language around this.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Are you doing the pops then too?
I do but mine is. Yeah, so instead of a like, which is like I can't make that sound.
It's harder for you.
That's what I do.
Okay.
And I also
it might not translate so well in this somewhat loud room, but
I don't know if
you're popping.
Yeah, and then I also I hope you don't have a pop filter
You
on
click
this thing.
it.
We do have a pop filter on
I can't write an E because they keep pop filtering my E.
Oh my gosh, get the pop filter away.
What's a typical command look or sound like, I guess?
So an example is spike every funk, air past bad.
Spike every funk, air pass bad.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to get a loop of that and some Breakmaster beats
do it
behind
again.
it.
Spike every funk, air past bad.
Do you make it musical on purpose, or is it just a side effect?
Yeah, that second time I did. Yeah,
Okay,
I was
that was
kind
good.
of feeling it.
Let's loop that sucker.
It was a solid second take.
Put a beat behind it. This could be a new form of music. Okay, so what does that do?
Right. So what that does is it inserts a new line before every function in a particular range of function defined by two particular endpoints, air and bat. Right, so spike every funk, air past bat, right? We're spiking, putting a new line before every function in the range between the air function and the bat function. Now, what are the air functions and the bat functions, you probably are going to ask.
Yeah.
So air, so this is where we get into, and this is on a podcast is going to be tough, but there's hats all over the little tokens on your screen.
Okay.
There's like these little hats that we put, right, over certain letters.
Okay.
And so if there's a hat over an A, then that token is called air, because air is what the word we use for A. And if there's a hat over a B, then we call that token bat. And so func air is the function which has a hat over an A somewhere in it, and func bat is the function that has a hat over a B somewhere in it.
Okay.
So that's spike every func air past bat.
So do you have basically a code word per letter?
Yep.
So this is a lot like CB radio stuff, right?
Yeah. So it's exactly like the international like Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Kind of thing. Yeah. So it's like that, except that's way too slow. Well, that's like 2 syllables per
Because alpha
letter.
is longer than air.
I have no time for that, right? If I'm coding all day, 2
nobody got
syllables.
time
It's
for
challenging
that.
too, I would say. Like Lima, Victor,
I mean,
Mike.
yeah.
Well,
Mike's
you're
not a
doing
bad
all
one,
Mike's
every
good.
day.
Mike,
Yeah.
I can, yeah.
So
Foxtrot,
single syllable. Have you ever thought of going 0 syllabic?
I mean, so that's what the pops are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even faster.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
what do you map a pop to then? Space?
So Pop does 2 things. Pop wakes up Talon, which is the software that Cursorless is built on, right? So if it's sleeping and I'm talking to someone, I can pop, and that will make it start listening. And then once it's listening, Pop will repeat the most recent phrase that I issued, right? So if
Okay.
I said spike every funk air past bat and I popped, it would do that again.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
super useful, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's great because you can make these kind of on-the-fly macros, because like a phrase can be like multiple commands in a row. So you can be like, delete this and then go to the next function,
Yeah.
and then you just pop, and it just keeps doing it over and over again.
So I guess since you had this injury, you don't have a lot of choice. Right.
I mean, at the time I started, I did not have a lot of choice.
Like
Now
you're
you
sort
do.
of forced to figure out a way if you want to keep programming.
yeah, exactly,
Right?
exactly.
Is it any more mentally taxing to do this method of editing, not coding? Is it like dramatically different? Does your voice get strained? Like what other side effects come from having to speak your coding?
Totally. Initially, absolutely, there's a large mental load, and that's because you can kind of think of it as like brain 1, brain 2, right? We have like this more modern brain which can think intelligently about code, right? And it's our language center and does all this sort of stuff. And then there's our lizard brain, or brain 1, which system 1 I think is called in this this nomenclature, which is basically the thing that's muscle memory and doesn't require thinking. And you only have one brain 2, right? So at the start, when you're trying to voice code, I have to remember spike every funk, what are the words, right? And it leaves no space for actually thinking about code. But what happens is, like anything, it moves into System 1 and leaves System 2 free as you practice. And so now, no, it's easier than a keyboard and it's faster. But at the start, absolutely.
Is it forgiving? I know when I talk to Siri, this is my
Yeah.
interpretation of how it might be to do this. Because when I talk to Siri,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not the perfect speaking every single time. I might
Right.
slur something or,
Right.
you know, I might whiff something and Jared thinks
Right.
I'm saying whiffy or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah,
you
that
know what I'm
happened
saying?
earlier, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like, is there room for error in your speech pattern? Like, do you have to be precise? How challenging is that?
Yeah, so I guess there's kind of like two ways in which you could define forgiving, right? So like one is forgiving in how you enunciate, and the other is forgiving in what you say, right? So you could very clearly say a command that's not real, right? On the other hand, you could slur a perfectly normal command, right? And so there's sort of two questions there. And so in terms of is it forgiving with like just slurring speech, speaking fast, but it's the right command, it has gotten much, much better. Like, yes, it is fair. Like, the recognition engine has gotten quite good because it's trained on millions and millions of hours of speech, and it's gotten to the point where it's fairly accurate. In terms of, like, is it forgiving if you just kind of, like, do something that's not quite right? Not at all.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a double-edged sword because the problem with Siri is, like, you don't necessarily know what you are allowed to say. Right?
Yeah.
Whereas with this, it's an extremely precise grammar. And so on the one hand, that means that you know exactly what you're allowed to say. But on the other hand, if you go outside of that, it's not going to work. Right?
So it cancels it. It just ignores the.
If you're lucky, it
just-
cancels it.
It just does it.
But oftentimes what it'll do is it'll find the closest thing that sounds like it, and then, you know, your computer
You're like, oh my
explodes.
gosh.
Yeah.
So
What's your undo sound?
So if I'm in the middle of a command and it's going south, like you're calling a horse,
Like-
and that'll cancel the in-flight command.
Like, whoa, Nelly.
Yeah, exactly. So if I do that as I'm issuing, that'll cancel it in flight.
Okay.
If it's after it's already run, then I say nope, and that's undo, and then
Nope.
I just pop to repeat the undo.
Speaking of Nope, have you seen that movie? It's a good movie.
It's a great one.
Yeah, it's
It
a
is a
good
great
movie.
one. I love that one.
That's cool though. I mean, that's the hard part. If you mess up, how do you get out of it? And how do you
Totally.
Like there's times I'm talking to Siri, I'm like, this is going south. I just say cancel, cancel, cancel.
Yeah,
That's my. I mean, for whatever reason, I gotta say it 3 times. You know, I don't
Yeah.
know. It's my thing, but.
No, it's funny. Actually, in the built-in community grammar, instead of making a sound to cancel, you actually do have to say cancel twice.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're onto
So
something there.
I'm a maximizer, so I always add one more
Okay.
to the requirement
That might be
in
too
most
much.
cases. So,
Yeah.
yeah, cancel, cancel, cancel.
Yeah.
So do you still use this day to day then?
Yeah. So
But optionally, you don't have to.
exactly. So yeah, I can now, like, it's comfortable for me to use a keyboard. I can, and like occasionally I will use a keyboard if, like, for whatever reason, like my voice is tired, or if, like, you know, like maybe it's a super duper loud cafe, then I can use a keyboard. But yeah, my preference nowadays is to code by voice, and I do most of my coding by voice.
Yeah. I was watching 2 folks last night at the party sign, and they were like furiously signing. Like they were emotionally signing. And I was like, that is so cool because they can communicate. This is a loud space, right?
Oh, yeah.
To communicate clearly
Right.
in a loud space, you have to elevate your voice, strain it, struggle to hear somebody, all these
Yeah.
different things. Whereas somebody who can sign, whether they're, you know, hearing impaired or not, is like a superpower because they can talk in scenarios where you cannot.
100%. And that's why I think, like, every medium has its advantages and its disadvantages, right? And so in certain situations, voice as a medium has disadvantages that signing and using your hands don't. But on the other hand, if I'm eating Cheetos and my fingers are completely orange, I don't want to use a keyboard, right? So,
Yeah.
like,
Good point.
I was
both
thinking
have
of something more
advantages.
dramatic where, like, maybe, you know, you had
more
to pull
dramatic
the-
than that?
Yeah, you
I'm
had
stuck
to
on the Cheetos thing. This is a really good point.
You had to
Go
pull the
ahead.
kill switch, right? Like somebody came in your house and like you need to wipe your drive, and you got a command for that or whatever.
Nope. Click, click.
Yeah, like, you know,
Cancel,
like,
cancel.
They got your hands tied
Right.
up and you're
You're just like,
bound.
wipe drive.
I can't type. Nope, all the things.
Yeah, nope at all.
Nope, all the things. That's awesome.
You know, I don't have that. I can't do that.
More likely
you could,
is you-
though. You could.
you could.
You could install it.
More likely, you just got some Cheetos on your fingers, though, and you don't want to touch a keyboard.
That's
So-
a more day-to-day.
Yeah. I mean, I would get in that situation. I avoid
Absolutely.
Cheetos, but any kind of food, you're like, this is kind of gross, but I'm really hungry and I want to keep going.
Exactly. That's exactly
so
right.
do you still use, so is this like a meta thing that sits over the top of the OS as a editor deal?
Yeah, so like I would say 90% of the code base lives in a Visual Studio Code extension.
Okay.
But so that's where most of the real bulk of the logic is in that VS Code extension. But basically, just like to give you the stack, there's Talon Voice, which is the engine that you define a grammar of, like, here's what you're allowed to say. You can say spike, whatever, etc. Talon, you can define any grammar you want, and you tell Talon, look, these are the type of things that I can say, and then here's what should happen when I do that. And Talon will then sit there listening. And so basically what we've defined, so Talon is something you install on your computer and it just runs. And it uses accessibility APIs, etc. And then cursorless is basically a grammar for Talon combined with an engine in VS Code and basically a way to send JSON payloads describing your commands from Talon to VS Code.
That's interesting. So does cursorless then add like the top hats and stuff for you to see?
Exactly. So the VS Code extension will put those little hats on everything as well.
But if you want to interact either outside of VS Code or even like with the menuing system and stuff, like that's all just Talon stuff, right?
So that's so Talon itself, right? There's like, in some sense, no command set that like is baked into Talon, right? There is a community grammar, which pretty much everybody uses, and that does all that stuff, right? And so like you install Talon, it suggests to install the community grammar. So like, so to do things like, controlling menus and like sending emails, Slack, I mean, everything, yeah.
So is there does cursorless replace that or merge into it?
It merges into it, yeah, exactly. And so because, cursorless is really laser focused on code editing, things like, for example, if I want, there's like Talon has, like the community repo has things like camel, which is a formatter, right? So if I say camel hello world, that's going to type out hello, then capital world, right? Camel case hello world. And so if I wanted to change, let's say I have a function call, right? Like, foo calling on argument is bar, and I want to change that foo to something else, call a different function called hello world. I could say change callee camel hello world. So that first command, change callee, that's cursorless, which will delete foo and put your cursor there, and then camel hello world, that's the community command, which will type it out.
Makes sense.
So they integrate together, yeah.
That's cool. So in your talk, did you live demo? Did you have any, did you do any?
A bit controversial, but I did not technically have a live demo. What I did was I made a keynote presentation with animated voice commands. So basically Wizard of Oz voice coding, which made it way, way, way more visual than actually doing it. But then because I was worried there'd be a riot, I put up a QR code on my YouTube channel so that people could see all my live code, all my coding sessions.
All right, so you got some stuff out on YouTube. I'm trying to see what people can watch because the video will be out soon.
Yeah.
Maybe even out there right by the time this episode goes out.
Maybe.
So if people want to watch your talk, they can go watch it, or you got other stuff on YouTube?
Exactly. They can watch the talk to get an overview of what it is, etc., learn all about it, get that visual to understand it, and then, if they want to see what it looks like at speed, then they can check out my YouTube channel, and I have things to teach you, and then things where I just turn on the camera, eat some Cheetos, and start coding. And
is it hard to pick up, to adopt it? Does it take a lot of I know dev environments are highly personalized in a lot of cases. Is this a dev environment for you? How much of this translates to any given developer?
Yeah, so I mean, it all translates to any given developer. But that being said, there is a learning curve. I'm not gonna lie. It's not like you just all of a sudden sit down and just chuck every funk air pass back. It's a language you have to learn, right? But it took you a while to learn a keyboard too, right? So it's you do have to learn it. There is a learning curve, and it's also customizable, right? So you can change it and make it work for you if it doesn't really work well for you.
How does it work with stall outs? We talked about slurring, but I imagine if I'm looking at my code and I say spike every line, what do you say, spike what?
Spike every funk air pass bat.
Spike every funk, and then I'm look over here, it's the C, I gotta be cat. Is it cat?
Yeah, let's call it cat.
Kitty.
No, tell me the right one. I don't want to be wrong.
It's cap. You were pretty close.
Cap.
CAP, yeah.
CAP.
Yeah,
so
cap.
I say cap, and I'm and I find an F, and I say...
fine.
Fine.
Yeah.
So I say cat, pass, cap. See, I already screwed it up. Cat. Now my computer's blowing up. Nope. Cancel. Cap, pass, fine.
Yeah, right.
And it's is it waiting for me to get to that?
Yeah, so there's something called the speech timeout, which is basically how long it's going to wait before it decides you're done with the command.
Gotcha.
Right? And so you can configure that. Mine is 400 milliseconds.
Okay, that's good.
Gotcha.
And so basically, so if it's kind of you're halfway through it, and that's when you would use that horse click sound and and cancel it out.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, it doesn't wait around for you. What you can do, so I have so people have all their tricks. So there's this one buddy in Sweden who's one of the core contributors, and he steals the trick that airplane pilots use. So he would be chuck every funk cap past drum.
So he just like stalls it with a sound.
Yeah, because if you go like, then like, because there's what's called the voice activity detector, right?
Right.
And as long as you're making that noise, it's like he's still talking.
That's cool.
And it's casting the,
It's kind of like, and that doesn't get interpreted as a word because it's just a noise. I'm pretty sure that's why airplane pilots do it too, to hold the airspace. I think that's what he tells me. So
Okay.
Does he get confused later in life and like he's talking to you and he's thinking and he's eyeing what he's talking to you but not the computer? Like, does it occur in his everyday speech?
no, this guy talks like nonstop. He's a machine. There's
He's a
no
machine?
pauses.
Well, I was
yeah.
wondering if, a lot of us, we work to remove filler words from our
Yeah,
language.
and he's
This is
adding
like
them.
adding them back in. So I would use and you spike every line, air, like.
You can
like.
actually map a command to do nothing. So if you wanted to, you can map like to, it's called skip.
I wouldn't
and
want to, because then I'd say like way too
That's
many
true.
times.
But it is true. You do get bleed over. So like, for example, I was like biking along a crowded canal towpath, right? So like,
Okay.
there's like all these pedestrians I got to get around, and I'm
You're
a
like,
polite
"Spike,
cyclist. Yeah, so I'm a polite cyclist.
Right.
So I keep saying on your left.
Yeah.
On your left. And like, there was a part of my brain. I just been like, like a marathon coding session. I go on your left. I get to the next one, and I wanted to pop to repeat it.
I wanted to pop.
Like my brain.
You should have popped it, man.
It was like, why can't I do that? Right?
They're like, why is this guy clicking at us or
Yeah.
popping at us?
Like, what's wrong with this guy?
Funny.
Yeah.
You'll end up on some gal's TikTok,
Right.
where they diss guys who are hitting on them. They're like, this guy is popping as he drives past us.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of TikTok, I have an idea.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, let's hear it.
I think that TikTok is a prime place to blow up something like this. And I think if you took the idea that Jared kind of gave you earlier, which was like, do it in song, basically.
Okay.
If you could do some TikToks where you're like,
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing it to a beat, maybe even.
Right.
Like one video is like, guess what? I just coded. And the next one is like the screen of you. I don't know. I'm not
like that. So
designing
it
how you
sounds
do
like
the-
music,
Yeah.
and then it turns out
You can use that as a virality thing to be
I
like,
like
this
that.
is because
Yeah,
TikTok loves
man.
interesting.
I like that.
strange and interesting, and this is a strange loop, so why not, right?
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. So I gave a talk a few months ago at like an art conference, and so I took some voice commands and like I just read them out as if it was poetry, and then like had the screen come up behind me, like gradually fade in and show like all the stuff that was flying around. So this would be like TikTok bites of that, but music.
Yes.
I like it. I like it. Do I have to pay royalties, or is
No.
that idea free?
a slight credit. Hey, listen to my friends
Okay.
over here
Yeah,
on this podcast.
I'll give you a shout.
I was
thought
thinking,
they're
like,
Give you a
amazing.
shout. Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
him doing that looped to music, like we kind of already own that. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
that's
You'll
fair.
have
We're
to.
not paying
All
for
right.
that, though.
We'll work something out. Yeah, we'll have my lawyers
Fraction of a
talk to-
penny,
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else, Adam? I mean, this is.
I'm clear. I love it, man.
I kind of want to try it.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, man. Cursorless. Look it up.
Cursorless.
Google it.
I'm definitely
Yeah.
saying
Check it out.
cancel, 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 so I'm halfway there.
I mean, that's pretty much it. That's half the battle.
I mean,
I'm gonna go home and work on my clicks and my pops.
and your
right.
cats and your
That's right.
caps.
That's right.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. Pretty cool.
That's cool,
Yeah,
Pokey.
thank you so much for having me. Cool.
That was fun.
I think it's okay for things to end. So, big trees in a forest sort of compete for their chunk of sky and all that corresponding life energy. And big trees protect some young trees under the canopy. And when that big tree falls, the sky opens up. Those young trees race up to fill it. I hope that Strange Loop Ending creates space in your life and mine for other things to grow. So thank you for being here with us all these years. And I hope it's been as important a part of your life as mine.
That is all we have for you, now and in the future. So please stick around, have a drink, and if you want to get something signed, do that. And thank you so much.
Well, that's as close as we can get you to the actual conference. Everyone we spoke to loved this conference, whether it's their first time or their seventh time. Everyone, and I mean everyone, adored this conference. Alex Miller and the organizing team has done a great job, a fantastic job organizing this conference every single year, and it will be missed. As I mentioned, we do have an extended episode for our Plus Plus subscribers. Lots more content to share, but only for our Plus Plus subscribers because it's just so much. All the content that we got from Strange Loop is for you, our Plus Plus subscribers. And if you're not a Plus Plus subscriber, you can correct that by going to changelog.com/plus+. It's better. $10 a month, $100 a year. Directly support us. Drop them ads. Get closer to that cool changelog medal. And of course, that awesome bonus content. Once again, changelog.com/plus+. One more thanks to our friends and partners at Fastly, Fly, and TypeSense. And to our Beatsmaster in residence, Breakmaster Cylinder. Those beats, so good, so good. Well, that's it. The show's done. We will see you on Friday.
Spike every funk air past bat.